Hi everyone. I have the pleasure of introducing to you yet another real-life heroine with Robin Owens, Ph.D. Welcome, Robin. So great to have you on my program.
It's good to be here, Susanna, and good to see you too. You're
Yeah,
looking great.
good. So are you. So are you. And I want to just say a bit that explain to people that you, Robin, are a teacher at St. Mary's University in California, and you teach religious studies there. And also, we have to mention, we can say more about this at the end, so we remind people that you're writing a book on the work that you do about purpose-based success. And you also are the founder of the Purpose-Based Success Academy. And you work with women entrepreneurs around leadership and how they find their purpose. And people might be a little disappointed that you're not going to be talking to us about how they find their purpose today on my program, because I'm going to talk to you about your heroine's journey. But will you just say that wonderful thing you say about how purpose is within you? And, can you just share those three things, the clues?
Yes. And you're talking about what I call that your purpose is within you, and life and yourself is giving you clues at all times to tell you, to point you in the right direction.
Right.
And I'll say those three things. One is your passions. These are clues that yourself, your mind, your personality, everything is telling you about how to find your purpose. Those things you absolutely love, those are your passions. That's number one. Number two, those things that are really, really important to you, really matter to you, your values. That's two. And number three, your natural abilities, those things that you do well, that you're gifted at, your zone of genius, your strengths, your natural abilities. So when you combine some aspect of your passions, your values, and your natural abilities, some aspect of each of those, and you use that in service to something beyond yourself, you're in your purpose.
Yeah. So I have to say, I think that's the best definition I've ever heard of purpose, because there are so many people searching, how do I find my purpose?
Yeah.
And, I believe as well that I think purpose is within you. But that whole point about it leaves clues, and where to find the clues, it's brilliant.
Thank you. It comes directly out of my experience,
Mm.
which we'll hear a little more about in a little bit. But also, I checked against others' experience after having that experience and did some research. And so this is how I am adamant about it, my experience and others, along with some research.
Wow, wonderful. And we should say that the website is www.purpose-based.com. Yeah,
Yes.
but we'll include that for people as well.
Okay.
So I wanted to let people know that what interests me and what the core of these interviews are is asking people about their calling, the calling that got them to go on their own heroine's journey. They're going along as in kind of regular life as an ordinary person, and bam, something can hit them in a startling way, or it could be a quiet nudge, kind of tapping them on the shoulder. But that's the thing, if they respond to their calling, takes them on a whole new direction, makes a big change in their life. So Robin and I are talking about, okay, because, and everybody knows this, that we go on many heroines' journeys, responding to calls, going where that takes us, learning as a result, many in our lives. And so we were, two of us, talking about which one. And Robin said, well, let me tell you, and here's one, and here's another, and here's another. There were three that have been pivotal in your life. And so, of course, I said, well, Robin, I think I would love to you talk about all three. So, because they're all great and I want you all to hear them, but she's going to abbreviate. And so with that as an introduction, can you start with the one, I think you were 28 or 29
Yes.
That
Yeah.
one we'll start with.
We'll start with that one. Yeah, I'll do the one, and then you can guide if we want to go on to the rest. How about?
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
All right. Good. So yes, I'm from the great state of Connecticut. I always say that whenever I'm talking to
I
people.
am too. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. Yes. And
Connecticut.
it's just my way of giving honor because my family and friends and lots of people I love are still there, even though I'm in California.
Mm,
So this was, like you mentioned, in my early 20s, my first professional, I would say, yeah, not experience, but my real first career. Like this was my career professional job that I had. I was a branch manager in a bank in Connecticut. And at 27, 28 years old, to all my family and friends, I had arrived.
yeah.
This is what you go to school for. This is what you look for. And you got the job at the big bank downtown. And I was miserable.
Mm,
It didn't suit me. Now, there's nothing wrong with banking, nothing wrong with it at all, but it didn't suit me and my personality. It was a lot of responsibility. I had tellers that reported to me and customer service reps. I didn't mind the responsibility. It just didn't suit me well. I said to myself, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what to do about this because I had beginning to get headaches.
yeah.
And one day at work, my nose just started bleeding. And then
Mm,
another day, nose just started bleeding. And those were indicators of
right.
stress.
Right.
And the stress purely came from not wanting to be there.
Mm,
So one day I went, had my lunch break out in the car, sat in my car in the parking lot, and asked myself, what would you do if you can do anything else? And the answer came to me immediately. I want to make a difference in people's lives. I had no idea what that looked like, what I was going to do, but I knew this is what I was going to do.
so let me just ask, Robin, do you usually get those kind of, I would call them an intuitive hit?
Prior to that point, I was not aware.
Yeah.
I might have, I might have, but I wasn't so aware of it.
Right.
Maybe because this was so stark and it was such a big issue in my life. And I was so intentional. I didn't know if I was going to get an answer. I was just trying to get away. So I went into my car,
Right. Right.
and it was quiet. And I just want to make a difference. And so I thought about it. And 2 weeks later, I went to the manager that I reported to and said, I'm resigning because she says, what are you going to do? I'm going to make a difference in people's lives. No plan. I just got to make a difference in people's lives.
And how did she laugh at you, or did she
No,
under?
I felt like, not looking back now, who knows really what it was, but I thought to myself, she probably was amused at this young, because at the time she was much older, and this young woman who's saying, I'm leaving to make a difference in people's
Right. Right.
lives.
So what about your family who was so equating that with success,
You're
that
right.
giving you a hard time?
You hit that right on the nose, Susanna. My mother couldn't understand it because she thought, this is what you wanted, right? This is what people work for. And she had stayed in a job for 35 years that she hated.
How many people do that? Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
because and so it wasn't a part of her experience that you leave a job. And so what she said to me was, I talked it over with her before I actually left the job, but she said to me, people don't leave good jobs.
Yeah.
People don't leave good jobs.
Right. Right. And I remember the day, I'm old enough to remember the day when it didn't look good on your resume to have more than one job, that looked like you couldn't stick with something. So you got a lot of pushback, which on the heroine's journey, we call those the threshold guardians. They want you to stay in your comfort zone, but you didn't. So that took you where?
Well, let me say I was there for 5.5 years, so I felt like I gave it a good run.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm trying to be mindful of the time, our time here.
Okay.
In my quest to make a difference, I went on and I got another position helping women on welfare who were trying to get back into the workforce. So I was teaching them, I was called what they called a pre-employment instructor. And then from there, because I'm fast forwarding through the years,
Right.
I went on to do social work, investigating cases of child abuse and neglect. Because remember, I'm trying to make a difference.
Right.
I'm trying to make a difference. Now, this job, I thought, well, if they have to go through such a trying time, it might as well be with someone who cares about them. And so I did that for another about 5 years. I'm seeing a pattern here with the 5 years.
But it's leading you to where you need to go next. So
Yeah, and I mentioned to you when we were talking earlier, looking back, both of those experiences, all three of them, and I'll say a word about them, happened sometime after a significant death in my family.
right.
That experience with the bank, I think I was tolerating it okay, but then after my father had passed away after a long illness, and about a year after he passed is when I made this decision. So there's probably been some wrestling going on in there.
Right, right.
And then when I moved on to do the social work position, while I was there, my mother passed away suddenly of a heart attack.
Yeah.
And prior to then, this is the hard work, child abuse and neglect and seeing the pain. I could do it. It was painful, but I could do it. But after she passed, somehow I was so sensitive to the pain. I could see it and feel it in ways that it didn't bother me before. And it had just gotten to be too much.
Mm,
And so I decided to leave.
right. And I remember asking you, what do you think it was about the deaths that kind of contributed to your making a decision to move on? And what did you say?
Yeah, I said that when you're broken open like that, because any kind of grief or any kind of pain breaks you open. And I think for the light to come in,
Yeah,
right? There feels a sense of darkness, but for light to come in to kind of move on, to move
right,
forward.
right.
Yeah. I didn't know that then, but looking back,
Yes,
I see that. Yeah.
and often one of the reasons why I like to ask people to recount their heroines' journeys is because we best see when we look back. When you're in the middle of it, it's hard to see what you're learning and what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then you kept going. You had another call.
Yes, I had another call. So when I left that position, then I went on to search the meaning of life, pretty much. Now let me pause here and say, I won't veer off the path too far, but let me say, as a young child, I remember being like in first grade. I always thought these big questions of life, like what's the meaning of life? And I tell this story about being on the front porch. We lived in a house that had a big front porch. And so early in the morning in the summers, I would go out and sit on the porch. Now that it was a 3-family house, and my cousins and sisters, I had 7 or 8 of them all around my age. They were all inside. And I can hear them laughing and playing with each other. And then they're getting ready to come out onto the porch where I was. And I hear my father say to them, "Don't go out there and bother Robin. She's contemplating the meaning of life." And they all laugh as a big joke. And I was embarrassed, I felt like a weird kid. But as I think about it, he was right.
Yeah.
I used to do that then. And throughout my life, I was always interested in these big issues of life.
Wow. So it was a passion for you. So that's one of the clues for you and your purpose.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes. And from each of the jobs, I picked up some clues, which is how I came up with how I ended up with my purpose, which I'll say more about that in a minute. All right, so now doing the social work, moved on to this quest, meaning, purpose after my mother's death, my own life, trying to figure out my own life. My life was so wrapped around hers and living in Connecticut. And so I thought, now here's my time. And I just followed what was calling me, the passion that was calling me. Went back to grad school, fast forward, got a master's degree and got a Ph.D. in religion, started teaching in religious studies.
Mm.
And when I started, I thought I might teach master's students in seminary because they're going through a transitional period in their lives. And I like working with people
Mm.
in transitions, interestingly enough, right?
Yeah.
And so then I ended up teaching undergraduate students because 18, 19-year-olds, they're in transition. They're moving from the kind of teen years into adults. So this is what I've been doing now for the past 9 years, teaching undergrads. When I'm not doing this other teaching, like what we're talking about now, meaning and passion. So there I was. Now we're up to 2018. We started this story in the 80s. Now we're up to 2018.
And we're in California, not
and
Connecticut.
we're in California, not in Connecticut. You're absolutely right. And my brother, 2018 in the spring, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer.
You have had such losses. Yeah. Wow.
And from the spring, by spring to fall, by October, he had passed away.
Mm.
And those last 6 months, I mean, he was in a lot of pain, but he was gracious, very gracious and loving the whole time. But of course, all of us who loved him, it was difficult to see. And he couldn't, I'm watching how he couldn't do the things that he used to enjoy. And he was just full of life and enjoyed his friends and just conversations, the simple things in life. So he passed in October 2018. And when I got over the initial grief after the funeral and some time had passed, now it's November 2018, I thought to myself, Robin, you've been working on this book for a couple years now, just a little bit here and there, this book that you and I are talking about. You've been saying you want to do a business, you want to teach people about purpose and meaning, and you've not really committed much time to it. You've been doing more commitment to your job, which is important, teaching in the university. And so I made a decision. I was like, yeah, look at Timmy. We called him Timothy, but we called him Timmy. It's like, he couldn't do all those. You have the opportunity to do these things. Just do it. You'll figure out a way. Just do it. So I made a decision. I'm going to do it. This is a part of my purpose. This is important to me, and I'm going to do it. I'm not going to let my job be the excuse why I don't have time or energy or any of that stuff. I'm just going to do it. And as it happens, sometimes when you make a decision, the universe just hears you.
Listens and responds. Yes.
Within the next week, I just happened to be on Facebook, and there's a video of Jake Ballantyne,
Our beloved coach.
our
Yeah.
beloved coach, who is talking about how to do the things that I need, right, for me. And so I sign up with him, and now fast forward, after working with him from 2018 to now, I have created this business where I teach meaning, passion, and purpose.
Right. Right. And what strikes me is you have really come to your purpose of sharing this important message and how to find your purpose and then living it. And you found your way there.
Yes.
By
yes.
knowing also when to leave behind things that weren't working for you anymore.
Yes.
Which is also part of the heroine's journey. You have to know when it's time to let go and leave and move on. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So the book's title, Robin, is?
Well, today, because it was still probably, I'm still working on it, but today I'm calling it Purpose-Based Decisions. Purpose-Based Decisions, an inspirational guide to more meaning, purpose, and passion in your life, business, or career.
And when you wrote it, you're really thinking about women and helping women.
Yes.
Find their way, just like you did.
Yes, absolutely. It's geared toward women. Of course, it could help men too. And I've interviewed some men for the book and women, but it's geared toward women because I'm a woman and I know our story a little more intimately.
Right. I understand. Yes. So as we kind of wind this up, what would you most want after relating, and thank you for sharing your wonderful stories, and I know you have more, but those three were really, I could tell, important and pivotal in your life. But what would you want women to come away with?
To take some time and really think about those things you love. Think about the things that are important to you, and think about some things you can do well, even if they're simple things like I'm good at organizing. And do some combination of those. Whether it's for a new job or for as a hobby, it will bring purpose and meaning to your life. That's what I would leave.
It's a great message, Robin. Thank you so much for sharing with all of us and being with me today. Really appreciate it.
Well, I always enjoy talking to you, and I think your book is fantastic, and the message of the book is fantastic. It's important work, so I consider it an honor to be here to talk to you and everyone who's listening now.
Thank you. And I'll probably see you next when we're sitting there with Jake.
Yes, I'll see you there.
Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye now.